Welcome to 1 to 11, the show where Premier League players pick their best 11 that they've played with in their career. Today, a centre-back whose name is synonymous with a South Wales club.
Williams as solid as ever, holding things together in the Swansea backline. Well, it's Williams! Good recovery that by Ashley Williams.
Header down and in! Ashley Williams, first goal for Everton.
When a big moment was needed, the big man's come up with it.
Williams in cleanly. Emergency action by Ashley Williams. Williams! Classic header from a corner.
Yes, a big welcome in the studio to Mr. Ashley Williams. 241 Premier League appearances. Ash, we're going to take you right back, all the way back. You're 36 now, but we're going to take you back to your first day on the planet when you were in the hospital. Well, it wasn't quite the first day. I think it was a little bit later. When you started speaking, your first word, your mum wasn't happy with this as well. Your first word was daddy. Your second word was ball. And your third word was mama. You were destined to be a Premier League footballer, weren't you?
Seems that way. Well, it didn't seem that way, for a long time. But yeah, football was my life, and my dad was a massive football fan, so it was just natural for me to kind of follow that. And I was all the pictures of me of a baby. I had a ball with me.
And there'll be so many footballers like that who have the same story with the dad watching the telly and watching the games. Your dad was a manager, wasn't he, at Hensford?
Yeah, so he managed. He managed my junior team, and then he managed Hensford youth team for a while. So I played with him, and we kind of just gone through my whole career together, really.
And the Belgrade Bullets, big shout out to the Belgrade Bullets. 6 years old, that was your first sort of real game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I honestly can remember parts of that game just not knowing what I was doing.
Centre back. Or just anywhere at that age?
I think, you just follow the ball. And it was 11 aside then as well, so it was a big pitch, 11 aside, and I remember it, and on like a cold, wet morning, and that was it then. That was, once you got the kit on and a referee and stuff, I just had the buzz then.
Now, I love this story that we all had Sabutio, didn't we, as a kid, and you'd picked out, quite rightly, at your age, when you were playing with it, there were no black Sabutio players, and you wrote to Sabutio, and they sort of arranged for you then to meet your hero, because you were born in Wolverhampton and sort of grew up in Tamworth in the Midlands, but you were a Liverpool fan, which didn't go down well when you signed for Everton later on. But look at this, when you got to meet John Barnes, what was that day like for you? Yeah,
I remember the day very clear, and yeah, you're right. It was, I was only young at the time, but I can remember saying, well, where's John Barnes? Where's Des Walker? And so the story went, and then they invited me up to the training ground, which was a massive day for me. That was the best and the biggest day of my childhood. I think we went up there, met all the guys. Obviously, he was my hero. So yeah, that was a nice day. And they actually, I think they started to put some black players in, which was quite nice.
There you
go. It wasn't a thing. It was just I presume I was just a kid confused where Barnsley was, which was my hero.
Quite right too. Look, I don't know if you've had the most conventional route into football, because we'll talk about it later. You went to West Brom, didn't you? And you were released at 16. But just a bit younger than that, you were working in a petrol station. You worked in a theme park. You, like any normal 16-year-old would do. What your memories of being in that petrol station? Because a little birdie tells me the Villa players used to come in and fill up their big fancy cars, and then that's you coming into that petrol station in 10, 15 years time.
Yeah, exactly that. And I've been to that petrol station lots of times as like a Premier League football player. Yeah. It always like, makes me chuckle that there'll be a kid behind the desk, and I feel like saying to him, you can do whatever you want to do in the future. So that was it. Yeah. So I did a few jobs. I didn't have that journey that a lot of players have that go straight through. So it was just something, with my theme park especially, left school, go to Drayton Manor. That was the route that everyone took from my school.
What did you do at the theme park?
So there was two kind of jobs you could do: rides or the games. So it was like the cat rack, or trying to keep the ball in the hook a duck and all of that. And I was on that. Wasn't very good at it, to be honest. I was also a waiter as well at a beefeater restaurant, and I was the worst waiter ever. I just forget tables, and I just knew nothing was for me, but it was just kind of to make ends meet.
Yeah. What was that like then when you got picked up by West Brom, big team in the local area, and then released at 16? Did that feel like the dream was over before it started?
To be honest, it wasn't a surprise to me. You know, I wasn't. It had got to the point where I wasn't really enjoying my football as much. I'd left my friends at a local level, gone to play in a structured setup, and football changed a little bit for me. Then I wasn't enjoying it. It wasn't a surprise that they released me. I think they released that whole age group, and then I had a bit of time off and just wanted to enjoy it a little bit more, and then got the call from Hensford Town, and that was just more about just trying to enjoy football, which is what it should all really be about. Yeah,
and then I guess a huge part of your career, and you ended up signing for Stockport, which was in 2003. You were a 19-year-old lad. This was, and we talked, didn't we, before about the manager there. He's still there. I know he's come and gone, but Jim Gannon, what an impact he had on your career. You ended up being captain there. You were there with the likes of Ricky Lambert as well, weren't you?
Yeah,
great memories.
Yeah, so the Stockport is a club that I hold dear to my heart, and they gave me a chance at professional football. You know, not having to work those jobs anymore, being a full-time football player. And Jim came in, and Jim was a massive part for me. And I'll always say, you know, I give him a lot of credit for my career because he gave me a good confidence boost when he come in.
He's a character. He's a scary. He can be scary. Can't he?
Yeah, no, I got on great with him, and you know, we still get on great today. And you know, I think he can be a little bit intimidating for people, but you know, he likes things done the way he likes them done. He's very respectful. Everyone has to show respect around the place, and I learned a lot that I took on later in my career from Jim.
Love that young Ashley Williams there. And you went from Stockport. I remember it was just before the playoff final. I think Stockport played Rochdale 2008 at Wembley, and you weren't there because in the March of that year you'd gone to Swansea, a club where you were going to have the most amazing memories. Signed initially on loan and then permanently, didn't you?
Yeah, and I remember it was a bit of a tough decision because we was having a good season with Stockport. Swansea were in League One, or they might have been top or second, and I just took the jump and went. And Roberto Martinez was the manager there, so I learned loads from him. He's obviously an unbelievable manager, and he did say, you're going to have a massive career here at Swansea. And at the time I was like, I don't know how you can say that because I've just come from League Two. But yeah, I can't, that move there, you know, I couldn't have, it worked out way better than I could have ever imagined it to work out for me.
Yeah, amazing, really. 352 appearances for Swansea, obviously coming all the way up from League One into the Premier League. We'll talk in depth about your first Premier League game as a player, but of course for Swansea as well. And you got the captain's armband at the club as well. You became a cult hero in Swansea.
Yeah, and that is, you know, I think people, if they think about myself or they think about Swansea, and you know, it's just, that is a massive chunk of my career, the biggest chunk, and it's just, I feel like that's the team that I belong to, Swansea, and it will always be that. It will always be that way, where, you know, everything is just, especially with the time that I went there and that group of players, what we achieved in that spell of time is, you know, you don't often see that. So, you know, that is special, and that's like, you know, I'll have that bond with Swansea forever. Yeah,
you have that bond, and we'll talk about your international career later, but also having captained Wales, that made the Swansea bond even stronger, didn't it? Because you weren't necessarily just playing in the Premier League, you were playing for Wales in the Premier League.
Yeah, it worked out. As I said before, I couldn't have foreseen it working out any better. I'd made my debut for Wales on the Wednesday night, I think, landed at Cardiff, drove straight to Swansea, signed on loan, and then it just matched up perfectly where I went on to have, you know, a long career with Wales and Swansea, living in Wales at the time, being captain of both teams. It was something that I couldn't have imagined when I was working at the petrol station, and I was just living the dream at that point.